What's the difference between a vegan and a whole food, plant-based diet person?
Well, a vegan, of course, is not using animal foods for any kind of animal foods, as well as not using them otherwise, too. So that's step number one. It's a good step. But unfortunately, they are primarily relying on their primary motivation is ethically based, which is fine. But they have not given enough attention to the basic science. And as a result, they tend to consume diets that are too high in added fat and refined carbohydrates. And so they might eat a lot of Twinkies and so forth, even if it's made out of plant-based stuff. But that's not the way to go. The biggest study that I'm familiar with, most recent survey of vegans, is that it shows that they're consuming diets on average, about 30% of total calories is fat. 30%. When I'm talking about diets, it should be around 10%, 10%. So we see some benefits, some health benefits for vegans, but we don't see the kind of benefits that you can get with the whole food plant-based diet, which doesn't have all that extra refined carbohydrate and fat.
I think that's a very important distinction, because I think that we hear the word vegan a lot, and it is still the word that people use when they're not consuming animal protein. But I think you're right. You could live on French fries and Twinkies and call yourself a vegan. And I don't think we're doing the science that you talk about. So getting back to right before the break, some of the science has a lot to do with milk and cheese and, of course, the processed food and, of course, the meat. I mentioned that your research shows that milk may cause early onset puberty in young girls. Now, for people listening, so what?
Well, for one thing, I should point out that historically, or let's say in other research over the past 2 or 3 decades, there's one thing that's really stood the test of time, and that is the earlier the age of men are, the higher is the risk for breast cancer.
Okay, that's a very important statement. Maybe say it again.
Yeah, the earlier the age of men are, the higher is the subsequent risk for breast cancer.